Tonight, East Timorese voters turn out en masse to decide on independence. Meningococcal disease claims 2 young lives and infects 3 others. And our young designers give fashion the shock treatment.
With Garry Wilkinson, this is 7 Nightly News.
Good evening. The East Timorese have turned out in force, ignoring the violence of previous weeks to have their say in the independence referendum. 90% of registered voters cast their ballots, with the counting to start on Wednesday. Voting day was marred by only one violent incident, a United Nations observer injured after shots rang out near a polling booth.
Thousands queued at polling centres and they stood there for hours.
All people very, very happy.
After weeks of intimidation, these people shrugged off threats of violence to take part in this historic referendum. The pro-Indonesia militia, who have menaced the local population for months, were scarce. One of their leaders, Eureka Guterres, voted in Dili. Nobel Peace Prize winner Bishop Bello was another who voted early. Nearly 450,000 people are eligible to vote. Exit polls suggest most favour independence.
We're waiting for many years. It's very important.
James Dunn was the Australian consul to East Timor in the 60s. Now he's back as a UN observer.
It's going well. It's going perhaps better than might have been expected for a plebiscite that was organised in very difficult circumstances.
The peace here on polling day could be fleeting. Despite a deal struck yesterday between independents and pro-autonomy groups to lay down their weapons, not many took notice, fearing police won't protect them. Indonesian police made a show of roadblocks to look for weapons, even checking vehicles driven by foreign news crews. At one roadblock, an Australian observer was questioned after his passengers were found carrying knives and fighting sticks.
Are you arresting them?
If you want to arrest someone.
The UN is pleased with the way the referendum has gone. It's holding its breath on what the results might bring. In Dili, East Timor, Jeff Parry, 7 Nightly News.
Tonight, Australia's East Timorese community is celebrating. Nobel Peace Laureate and independence campaigner José Ramos Horta has been joined by supporters at his mother's place in Sydney. Mr Ramos Horta, how important has today been for East Timor?
Tremendously emotional, gratifying for all of us in Australia, around the world, and of course, as we witness our extraordinary brave people walking miles and miles into the voting booth in the last few hours, it gave us enormous joy. It is a triumph of courage and triumph of democracy.
Do you think that the relative peace that we've seen the last 24 hours is going to hold?
I believe so, because the moderating people in Indonesia, the President B.J. Habibie, Foreign Minister Ayalatas, and maybe General Wiranto, are prevailing upon the hardliners in the Indonesian army. And they are beginning to see that the hardliners are harming more the interests of Indonesia than are harming the people of East Timor.
Well, it's been a long time coming and there's still a long way to go. We wish you all the best. Mr Ramos Horta, thank you.
Thank you.
While the referendum results should be known in a week, and while Mr Ramos Horta is hopeful the tenuous peace will hold, our defence forces remain on high alert in case a pro-independence vote should spark further violence.
A prayer for votes in Darwin, the Timorese community gave thanks for being able to get to the ballot box without fear. Nearly every one of them cast their vote with a smile. 350 kilometres away at Tyndall Air Base, Australian soldiers and pilots are now on 30 minutes' notice, ready to evacuate our citizens from East Timor. Black Hawk helicopters, Hercules and Caribou transport aircraft are on standby if violence follows the vote.
We will put together a contingent that contains the equipment and the particular skills that are required to mount an operation if it's required.
It's believed a military air corridor is being cleared from Darwin to Dili. All other planes must stay clear.
That's one of those operational matters that I can't comment on.
It's a plan the Defence Force knows well. 2 years ago, troops evacuated Aussies from Cambodia.
We would obviously not just evacuate Australians, but other members of the international community.
Plans are being updated hourly. Our government still hopes it won't have to give the go-ahead. Darren Curtis, 7 Nightly News.
Doctors are urging parents to look out for signs of the deadly meningococcal disease. In Western Australia, it has already claimed 2 young lives, while in Victoria, 3 teenage girls, all from the same high school, have been infected.
The medical response at the school was fast and thorough. In the last 48 hours, 250 students and parents from Melbourne's Padua College have been given antibiotics to try and prevent the meningococcal outbreak spreading.
I mean, I think the whole school should be treated. I think they're doing everything they can.
A 16-year-old girl is the latest casualty. She started showing symptoms after returning from a school camp.
Early treatment will save most cases.
The condition of 2 14-year-old girls who contracted the infection last Thursday has improved. They're out of danger, but still in isolation. But in Western Australia, treatment came too late for 19-year-old Alison Carter. The university student died in hospital overnight.
She was one of the most beautiful girls you could have met. She was very sweet. She was just full of personality.
And a 4-year-old boy from Mandurah, south of Perth, has also died. Health authorities insist the cases are unrelated, but urge everyone to look out for symptoms. They include neck stiffness, fever, vomiting and a rash around the joints. Amanda Palmer, 7 Nightly News.
A New South Wales magistrate who says some nagging women are to blame for domestic violence will not be named. He's being identified only as Magistrate Number 1, but his comments have sparked a strong rebuke.
Apprehended violence orders don't always work. Jean Lennon took one out against her ex-husband. He shot her outside Parramatta Court in 1996. But according to one of the state's 128 magistrates responding anonymously to a survey, women who suffer domestic violence deserve it for nagging, bitching and emotionally hurting men. Men cannot bitch back for hormonal reasons and often have no recourse but violence.
I think it is an outrageous statement. And it saddens me.
Those women need to be helped. They don't need to be blamed.
These are quite inappropriate views for somebody dealing with domestic violence cases.
Mr Shaw says the magistrate should be dealt with by the Judicial Commission.
The Commission can't punish, it can only investigate complaints. Magistrate Number 1 would have to write in and complain about himself.
Then the Commission could provide him or her with further education.
If he feels that he can't cope with that, perhaps he should look for another job.
The use of AVOs has increased dramatically. 50,000 were granted last year. Magistrates and the government want to reduce the growing number being used as weapons in neighbourhood disputes.
That really ought to be dealt with over a cup of tea or a talk in the backyard.
Damien Smith, 7 Nightly News.
Mitsubishi is to shed 300 jobs from its manufacturing plant in Adelaide. The job losses are the first stage of a major restructuring by the car maker.
There are more than 7,000 Magnas and Veradas sitting in stockpiles around the country waiting for buyers. Magna sales slumped by 20% in the first half of the year, and despite some aggressive price cutting, August has been a bad month for the local car builder. 300 employees are being asked to volunteer for retrenchment. After that, staff who leave won't be replaced.
We're on a continuing productivity improvement program, but they will be handled with natural attrition after this. This is a one-off program as we see it.
The 300 retrenchments will come from all areas of production at Tonsley Park and the engine plant at Lonsdale, and it's happening with the cooperation of the union.
There's always people that are interested in the package, particularly older workers. In fact, it was one of the union's demands at the enterprise bargaining agreement last year, where we actually asked for a voluntary package.
It's pretty bad, but yeah, you know, it happens, you know.
Don't even know if we got jobs after Christmas.
It's a bit of a worry for you?
Certainly is, when you've got bills to pay.
The company's standing behind it the whole time and saying that they're in for the long haul.
The future of Mitsubishi in Adelaide depends on the company getting approval from Japan to start work on a new model to replace the Magna Verada range. That decision will be made by the end of this year.
I'm quite confident that we'll be here for the long term.
Chris Warren, 7 Nightly News.
Australia's economy is belatedly feeling the heat of the Asian economic crisis. Our current account deficit has blown out to a record $9.4 billion.
In the 3 months to June, Australia spent $9.4 billion more than it earned. That's a blowout of more than $1 billion, up 13% on the previous quarter.
The combination of
fewer exports because of the Asian crisis and lower commodity prices, and stronger imports because of the strong domestic economy.
While the volume of our exports remained about the same, prices fell as buyers in Asia withdrew from the market.
Why don't you own up to your utter failure on the current account?
We're not in charge of the coal price in Japan, nor are we in control of the steel price in Korea.
The record figures being called a one-off peak, and economists say financial markets have already factored it in.
The stronger economy has more positives. It means more people in jobs, stronger income, stronger consumption. The import side is just the slight downside to that overall positive picture on the local economy.
The result's not expected to affect interest rates, as our economy is expected to slow soon.
We expect the position to improve as Asia picks up during the course of the next year.
In Canberra, Rani Sadler, 7 Nightly News.
A young Sydney designer has carried off one of Australia's most prestigious fashion prizes. Shona Stevenson has won this year's Smirnoff Fashion Award. She and 2 fellow students from Sydney's White House School of Design filled the first 3 places. 19 finalists were selected to produce clothing on a theme of virtual nature. Tonight's awards were co-hosted by model Sarah O'Hare. A freak storm has caused widespread devastation in South Africa. Thousands have been left homeless. More on that next. And Dennis the Hurricane about to menace the Carolina coast.
Honey, we talked about this blouse.
Thursday, Grace is having a trauma.
I haven't really been feeling very...
So, what's the problem?
I have no romantic drive.
Not even one of the Baldwin brothers?
No.
Not Alec?
No.
Not Billy?
No.
Not Stephen?
No.
Danny?
No, no, no!
What about all 4 together?
Will, we're talking about me.
Oh, yeah.
Australia's #1 new comedy.
It's time to get your head out of the dumps and your legs in the air.
Coles presents Will and Grace after Dharma and Greg Thursday.
When times are hard and you don't know where to turn, don't deal with it all alone. Counsellors on Call are available to you every minute, every day.
Call Counsellors on Call 190 2211 841. Dealing with conflict, grief, depression, abuse, sexual issues, addiction. Talk to someone who understands and can offer you professional help immediately. 190 2211 841.
MobileNet is revolutionising mobile phone usage with unprecedented value on all mobile calls. So now you can enjoy the benefits of calls from 5 cents per minute off-peak. Flat rates across Australia, regardless of distance. Easy talk paid by the second billing. And some free calls on all new mobile plans. Together they represent significant savings and newfound freedom. That's MobileNet.
Come on, Tim. Eat your veggies.
Why?
Yes, Mum, why?
Because they're good for you.
Why?
Tell him.
Because they've got lots of
Lots of what?
antioxidants.
Very good.
Auntie who?
Antioxidants. They help to keep your body healthy.
And according to CSIRO nutritionists, another rich natural source of antioxidants is right under your nose. Tea. So have another cup.
Sydney's Lounge is having a super sofa sale. Yes, buy a sofa and get one free. Like the Solo for $2.99. Buy one, get one free. Or the Brighton, $3.99. Or the Charlie, $4.99. Or the Joanne, $5.99. We've got lots of sofas. So far, so good. Or the Helene at $6.99. The Granville, $8.99. Yes, buy any sofa and get one free. Sydney's super free sofa offer. With 10 great locations, there's one near you. And still pay only $10 deposit with 2 years to pay.
Come and see the real thing, come and see the real thing, nature's finest. Come and taste the real thing, come and taste the real thing, Golden Valley.
Studies show 87% of women get irritated waiting for their man to get a close shave with a regular electric shaver. Lucky for this guy, there's the 3D reflex action from Philishave. The contouring heads reach those awkward places, while the lift and cut system and rotating blades get as close to you as she will. Buy a Philishave this Father's Day and get a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label free.
Access to a professional counsellor takes only a phone call. It's instant, any hour, confidential, professional advice. You don't need to deal with your fears and despair alone.
Call 190 2211 841.
Two sisters of a Queensland babysitter have appealed to the public for help in finding the missing teenager. Jessica Gordy disappeared early Sunday morning while looking after 3 young children. The 16-year-old left her money, wallet and some clothing behind when the children's father took her to look for his wife. He says he dropped Jessica off on a street corner shortly after 1 in the morning.
I think it's extremely suspicious, and where, as I said to you earlier, that we are very concerned about the welfare of the girl.
A widespread search near the young woman's home has failed to find any trace of her. At least 10 people have been killed and thousands left homeless in a freak storm in South Africa. The worst damage occurred near Cape Town.
The gale force winds caused the worst damage here in Manenberg, a poor township in the Cape Flats district of the South African city. The high winds caused a number of buildings, including apartment blocks, to collapse. Streets in this coastal area were also flooded. Police believe that some 5,000 people have been made homeless, while officials are calling it the worst natural disaster to hit the area in living memory. Rescue workers waded through the debris to try to find victims of the tornado-like storm, which included these 2 dogs who were dug out of the rubble.
It was just lightning, thunder and a rumbling. The saw came from across the mountain and hit the houses and lasted for about 10 minutes.
Most of the injuries were caused by flying debris and glass. Community officials are now trying to organise relief for the homeless.
Hundreds of holidaymakers and residents are leaving the American states of North and South Carolina as Hurricane Dennis bears down on the US East Coast. The hurricane could arrive within 36 hours. A warning has been posted from Georgia to North Carolina. Those who aren't leaving are taping up their windows, battening down the buildings and stocking up on supplies. With winds up to 160 kilometres an hour, Dennis is already whipping up high seas and torrential rains. Princess Diana's former lover, James Hewitt, is intending to reveal more intimate details of her private life from tomorrow, the 2nd anniversary of her death. He plans to tell all about 6 lovers he claims that she had after her marriage to Prince Charles faltered. Hewitt's book is being billed as his autobiography, and he's believed to have already sold serialisation rights in Britain for $1.25 million. Well, the Australian share market has started the week on a lower note. The All Ordinaries slipped 27 points, taking its cue from Wall Street's weekend close. Telstra slipped 7 cents. AMP shares were down 5, while BHP shed 28 cents. Most banking stocks were also lower, although the Commonwealth bucked the trend, adding 2 cents. The NAB dropped 23 cents and Westpac was down 5. The Australian dollar is buying 63.2 US cents, that's just over 70 yen, 39.8 British pence or 60.6 euro cents. Gold is worth $253.80 US an ounce. In London, the FT 100 is closed for a public holiday and the Nikkei and the Hang Seng both closed up. One of our best-known department stores has taken on the flavour of the Orient. This year's flower displays at David Jones have a Thai theme. They include thousands of bamboo stems, orchids and rich green foliage. A number of arrangements are more than 3 metres in height. The store is also hosting a number of events which celebrates Thailand's cultural heritage and its exotic food and traditions. The annual flower show opened in Sydney and Melbourne today. It'll be held in Adelaide and Canberra later in the month and in Brisbane in October. Still to come in 7's late news, our Wallaby squad named for the World Cup. And just who has made the All-Star Australian AFL side this year?
A politician a little too in touch with his voters.
Mark didn't mean to upset you.
The threat of a cover-up, but there's worse to come.
What are you going to do about it?
I guess I've just got to make a choice.
More than one choice to make in Blue Heelers Wednesday.
When times are hard and you don't know where to turn, don't deal with it all alone. Counsellors on call are available to you every minute, every day.
Call Counsellors on Call 190 2211 841. Dealing with conflict, grief, depression, abuse, sexual issues, addiction. Talk to someone who understands and can offer you professional help immediately. 190 2211 841.
Oh, now.
It's Modern Roof Restoration's Cementathon. Modern will restore your single-storey cement tile roof now at a massive 30% off normal costs. Yes, 30% off normal costs for single-storey homes with cement tile roofs, but it's limited to the first 200 callers. That's single-storey cement tile roof restoration at 30% off. Call Modern Roof Restoration now and save. 13 11 78, open 7 days a week.
Yes, Modern are the best. Call us now.
He is the greatest, the most famous sportsman of the 20th century.
He's too ugly to be the world champ. The world champ should be pretty like me.
The very best of Muhammad Ali. A special video double pack. The hype, the preparation, and the confrontation. The biography of an amazing sporting career, together for the first time in The Tribute. Also Iron Mike Tyson, Prince Nassim, and more Ali in Shooting from the Left. The perfect gift at these stores now.
Super Tourer drivers, racing professionals, BOC, welding professionals. We've got everything welding for you. Special deals now on. $100 trade-up offers on latest design BOC Oxia 7 gaskets. Great for all cutting, welding and heating jobs. Up to 40% off SIG Weld engine-driven welders. And a special introductory offer, 25% off our top quality BOC brand welding electrodes. BOC, everything welding.
MobileNet is revolutionising mobile phone usage for business with unprecedented value on all mobile calls. So now you can enjoy the benefits of some free calls on all new mobile plans. 25% off MobileNet to MobileNet per minute call rates on all business plans. Flat rates across Australia, regardless of distance. And Easy Talk pay by the second billing. Together they represent significant savings and newfound freedom for your business. That's MobileNet.
Studies show 87% of women get irritated waiting for their man to get a close shave with a regular electric shaver. Lucky for this guy, there's the 3D reflex action from Filashave. The contouring heads reach those awkward places, while the lift and cut system and rotating blades get as close to you as she will. Buy a Filashave this Father's Day and get a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label free.
Yes, time to talk sport now. And in AFL, Melbourne's Marcus Seekamp will miss 4 matches after the tribunal tonight found him guilty of headbutting. Carlton's Justin Murphy was fined $2,000 for abusive language. But Essendon are celebrating after Bombers coach Kevin Sheedy decided to remain at Windy Hill for the next 3 years.
The distance or time.
After a week of sleepless nights, Kevin Sheedy answered the $1.8 million question, rejecting a massive offer from Richmond this morning. One just last week he was set to accept.
Probably at one stage I nearly could have been moving that way.
The Richmond offer says Sheedy was one of 4 from other clubs. The emotional attachment of Tigerland hardest to turn down.
Probably like saying to yourself, well, gee whiz, you know, you've got a son and a daughter, and which one do you really care about? And you really care about them both.
The 3-year deal was the Bombers' 3rd attempt in a month to re-sign him, after original offers of 1- and 2-year terms, which would not have kept him at Windy Hill.
No. Not at all. Not when I know what the offers was from other clubs and or were from other clubs, and definitely not.
And several Geelong stars, including skipper Lee Colbert, Ben Graham, Brad Scholl and Barry Stoneham, have had contract negotiations stalled as they wait for a new coach. Gary is set to sign with Adelaide later this week. Craig Hutchison, 7 Nightly News.
AFL players tonight swapped their boots for suits, as 25 current players were named in the All-Australian side for 99. Players voted for the elite team, its members recognised for their outstanding performances this year. Ben Hart, Nathan Buckley, Wayne Schwass and Stephen Silviani made the list. Hawthorn's captain, Shane Crawford, was also named the most valuable player and North Melbourne's Glenn Archer the most courageous. The award for most inspirational player went to Sydney's Paul Kelly and best first-year player to the Swans' Adam Goods. Well, the Wallabies are riding high after their win over the All Blacks, and today they were given an extra boost with John Eales and Stephen Larkham being named in the 30-man squad for the World Cup.
He became the first Aboriginal forward to play for the Wallabies earlier this season, and now Jim Williams is off to the World Cup.
It's always been in the back of my mind, like ever since I started playing in the forwards, and to try and get to a World Cup would be fantastic and actually be part of the team.
His inclusion comes at the expense of Tom Bowman, who last season was one of the world's best second rowers.
As it's turned out, we believe that we're going to go for a bit more mobility within our squad of 30. So, as I say, he can consider himself a little unlucky.
John Wellborn also misses out with 17 of the 30-man squad forwards, selectors opting for 3 hookers. John Eales is one of a trio of specialist second rowers and will captain the side in place of David Wilson.
Really looking forward to the trip, particularly after the great win on Saturday night. It's good for the team to be going away in such a healthy frame of mind.
No real surprises in the backs, with Waratah winger Scott Staniforth claiming one of the last positions on tour, while Steve Larkham is back. Rod Caper, his understudy.
Depending on what Larkham's form, he could be the number 1 5'8" Caper, but basically here's our backup 5'8".
Paul Gregg, 7 Nightly News.
The flying Finn Mika Häkkinen has regained the lead in the Formula One Drivers' Championship after a 1-2 McLaren finish in the Belgian Grand Prix. Häkkinen missed the start, allowing teammate David Coulthard to grab the lead, but it was almost a disaster for the pair on the first turn. Not so lucky Pedro Diniz, who spun out and checked out in the gravel. But Coulthard was never headed in the race. Häkkinen knew that second place was enough to regain the championship lead from Ferrari's Eddie Irvine. Well, the World Athletic Championships have ended with the Aussies rating it our best ever performance, but the final day was one for the Americans, who came home strong.
The men's 4x400 with Michael Johnson anchoring wanted a world record, and it came down to the great one to give it a nudge.
The clock is his enemy again.
No record, but Johnson did what no one has ever done before, collecting his 9th World Championship gold medal. In the women's 4x4, Australia went from lane 1. Tanya Van Heer led off. Lee Naylor got us into a bronze medal position. Susan Andrews tried hard, but a weary Kathy Freeman couldn't make any impression. Russia just held off the US for gold.
Physically, my legs were just kind of gone. And
in the men's 4x100, the United States dominated again, and why not with Maurice Green on board? He collected his 3rd gold medal of the meet. The Americans have flexed their muscles here in an indication of what's in store in Sydney.
Hey, Sydney, we coming for you next.
Well, that brings to an end Australia's most successful World Athletics Championship in history. It is a huge encouragement heading into Sydney 2000. We finished 15th on the medal tally, 1 gold, 1 silver and 2 bronze, and plenty of personal bests. In Seville, Spain, Nick McArdle, 7 Nightly News.
And finally, let's take a look at weather prospects around Australia. Scattered cloud over New South Wales is breaking up and moving into Queensland. A weak front is crossing the Bight, but skies elsewhere are mostly clear. A high in the Tasman Sea is directing moist easterly winds onto the east coast north of Sydney. A weak cool change in the Bight is moving slowly east, pushing warm northerly winds ahead of it. And what's all that mean? Well, it means that Queensland can expect coastal showers, tops of 28 for Cairns, 22 for Brisbane. Showers too for northern New South Wales, but fine elsewhere, high of 21 for Sydney, fine and 19 in Canberra, fine throughout Victoria, sunny and 22 for Melbourne, 19 in Ballarat. Mostly sunny for Tassie, tops of 20 for Hobart, 18 for Launceston. Fine too in South Australia, apart from a shower in the southeastern corner, tops of 27 for Whyalla and 25 degrees in Adelaide. Whilst over in West Australia, they're expecting mostly sunny conditions, 20 degrees for Kalgoorlie and 22 degrees for Perth. And it's going to be fine too, right across the centre and the top end. Sunny and 30 degrees for Darwin, 25 degrees in Alice Springs. And that's all from the 7 Newsroom for now. Our next major bulletin, 7 Nightly News at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. I'm Garry Wilkinson. Good night.
Tonight, look at her now, a mum's winning battle. 62 kilos shed in just 6 months. Plus, the latest in home entertainment.
Life should be celebrated.
Bring an actor to your home, today, tonight.
Studies show 87% of women get irritated waiting for their man to get a close shave with a regular electric shaver. Lucky for this guy, there's the 3D reflex action from Filashave.